Good morning, it's August 28th, and this is To My Liberal Friends. To tax drivers or not to tax them? Now, that's the intriguing question for politicians pushing everyone to buy an electric vehicle. The Highway Trust Fund is what the United States uses to build and maintain the interstate highway system. The federal tax on a gallon of gasoline is at 18.4 cents, and for diesel, the rate's 24.4 cents per gallon. The amount the states taxes, each gallon varies from state to state, with Pennsylvania taxing a gallon of gas at 61 cents. States like California, 54 cents, Washington, 49, New Jersey, 42 cents, are among the leaders in applying this tax. At the lower end, you have Alaska with only 9 cents per gallon, followed by Hawaii at 16, New Mexico at 17, Arizona, Mississippi, and New York come in at 19 cents. So you can see it varies from state to state. Depending on where you fill up, you can pay a widely varying rate of tax. It could mean several dollars each time you fill your car up. Well, the state of Michigan falls somewhere in the middle at 29 cents, but that's not stopped Governor Gretchen Whitmer from looking for more sources of tax for roads. And that source appears to be the electric vehicles that she and other liberal politicians are trying to require drivers to buy. But that puts him in a dilemma, because if everyone starts driving an electric vehicle, then nobody will be purchasing gas that's taxed to build and maintain the roads. And for years now, the EV community has been getting a free ride at the expense of those paying the tax. Budget officials around the country have worried for years that the rise of electric vehicles will lead to fewer drivers paying traditional gasoline taxes, which, as I said, they're devoted to road construction and repair. In Michigan, a report sponsored by county governments found the state has already lost over $50 million in taxes that electric car owners didn't pay at the pump between 2019 and 21. And that's only a fraction of the roughly $1.5 billion that Michigan collects annually from fuel taxes. But the losses have climbed to $470 million by 2030, when perhaps a quarter of all vehicles plug in for their power, if the Liberals are successful. If electric vehicles render gasoline engines obsolete, states will have to figure out new ways to fill potholes and resurface roads. Now, they could get the funds from general revenue, though people with short commutes will end up subsidizing the travel of those who spend long hours behind the wheel. What Governor Whitmer is pondering is something similar to other states. They want to tax you based on how many miles you've driven. And I suspect that voters are not going to like that solution, because it means some form of identifying where you've driven. It would also require a massive investment in equipment to monitor driving. It would be easier on major highways and roads, many of which already have some form of toll, but what about normal streets and cities? What about rural roads in states like Nebraska and Wyoming? So I have a suggestion. Charge a registration fee for EVs that should cover the gas tax. That fee would have to be on top of the normal registration fee, and it would be several $100s each year. And that's not going to make the EV drivers of EVs happy. They love to tell you how much money they're saving by driving their electric car. Then they tell you how they're helping the environment, of course. Well, they ignore that the charging stations on the road in their homes are getting that electricity from a fossil fuel power plant. The problem is only going to get worse. The progressive politicians know that banning gas-powered cars is not a popular thing, so they try to couch their policies with what I call dishonest rhetoric. New Jersey is a classic example. Early this year, Governor Murphy announced his state would adopt California's ban on the sale of new gas engine cars by 2035. California's rules require electric vehicles to make up a growing share of automaker sales. And manufacturers will be done, in other words, fined if they miss their benchmarks. More than a dozen states have adopted California's mandate. So the question is, why do we get down these rabbit holes in the name of some possible benefit? EVs have become the holy grail of the left, and they march on without any thought to the idea it might not be achievable. I'm all for continuing research into EVs and to any renewable energy. But the problem is most EVs don't go far enough. But to the progressive that make up the far left, we need to do it now and damn the consequences. And it's interesting that the majority of these people live in urban areas where an EV might make sense, but they completely ignore that it might not be practical for someone that lives in a more rural area. And now we have the Biden government under the Biden administration trying to pick winners and losers in the marketplace, failing miserably. Every EV dreamer promises to make a better one, and then we see the government handing out money to these startups with any proof that they can succeed. If you look at things, you'll think that, take a look at these companies. Bright Automotive started in 2008. They collected $17 million in funding, and by 2012, they were out of business. Fisker, they were going to create a luxurious electric grand tour. They missed numerous deadlines, were plagued by production problems. They started in 2007, and 5 years later, they were gone. Le Eco was started in 2011, had a concept car by 2016, but that was it. 7 years later, and a few $1 billion down the drain, they're no closer to getting on the highway, and they were in fail mode. Dyson EV. Just because you can make a vacuum cleaner doesn't mean you can make an EV. This British unit plowed $500 million into the project before admitting defeat and terminating it. Electric Last Mile. This was formed through Special Purpose Acquisition Order in 2021. Electric Last Mile Solutions hope to make a truck out there with a range of battery-powered vans for commercial use in city centers. That didn't work either. They filed for bankruptcy in 2022. You would think the government would remember what happened with Solyndra. Trying to change the market artificially never works, but liberals will not stop trying. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe. If you have a comment, I'm happy to hear from you.